Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Mary Colette Rogers, Healthy Kitchen Companion, and today I want to share a vital life skill with you that saved my health, my sanity, and my life, and that can save yours too. I want to start by telling you about a comment that I ran across recently. I was actually watching a video from an online business coach, and she was talking all about trying to encourage her audience to think about being more creative. So the title of her video was called The Dr. Seuss Effect, and she was encouraging people to be more like Dr. Seuss, who was way creative. But what really attracted me was a comment that was after the video. And there a woman said, "I'm amazed at how constantly we argue for our own limitations. I'm amazed at how constantly we argue for our own limitations." And I think that comment could apply to a lot of areas of our lives, but in particular to our food lives. How often do we argue for our own limitations? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, here's the thing. I think we all know quite a bit about healthy eating, right? Probably even this week, you've seen some article, some webinar, some email that's encouraging you to eat better, and the experts are constantly screaming at us, we've got to eat better, and a healthy diet is so important. And I think most of us know pretty much what that means to eat healthfully. And so what it means, is lots of vegetables and fruits, lots of whole grains, clean proteins, good fats. We know all that. And so I wonder whether maybe you're harboring some dreams that you'd like to be that person that when you sit down to eat, you look at your plate and it's got all those powerfully nutritious foods on it. Better yet, that you'd feel good about yourself, that you're really taking care of yourself and serving your health well. Maybe you're inspired to make your healthy eating dreams come true. But then do the limitations come into your warm, fuzzy food dreams, and they say things like, "Oh, you don't have time for that. You don't even know how to cook. You don't even like to cook." Cooking those kinds of meals is really expensive. And by the way, don't you have better things to do with your time than cook, for goodness sakes? You don't know anything about vegetables and whole grains, and grocery shopping would be a nightmare. So just forget about it. It's too much for you to do. So we forget about it. And there we have successfully argued for our own limitations. So what I want to talk to you about today is this vital life skill that can help you so that you can make your healthy eating dreams come true instead of arguing for your limitations. And what I hope you will also find is that you'll be re-empowered to make the meals that you really want to be eating and feel good about yourself and save your health like I was able to save my health. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this skill. The first thing to know is that it's a how skill rather than a what skill. And what I mean by that is that the skill I want to share with you today is not more about what you should be eating, but how to make that happen. And the how part of things has always been my area that I focused on in the healthy eating area. I've been in the business for like 27 years, and I've always focused on how can we make good meals happen. And the reason for that is a couple. One is that when I first got into the field, there was already a lot of information about what we should be eating, and even now there's even more. So I'm just certain that we didn't need to add one more voice to that. But also, as importantly, is the fact that as I began talking to people over the years, I found out that people really do know about healthy eating, like I mentioned before. You know that you want to say yes to vegetables and to fruit, to whole grains, to clean proteins. You know that you want to say no to things like sugar and the white flour, the things like the croissants, the sugary pastries and the white pastas and the frozen food meals and the pizzas and so forth. You know you want to say no to those. Now, I know that a lot of people are kind of playing with the different parts of the formula, like maybe you want to eat fewer carbs or more carbs, or you want to get your fats all from nuts and seeds rather than oils, or maybe you want to go vegetarian versus eating meat. Those are all doable, but I think all of us know that the bottom line is eating real whole foods, and that will get us 80 to 90% of the way towards eating a healthy diet. But the problem is that translation from taking what's up here into what's on the table. And that's why I want to work on that translation piece. Move us beyond what into how. That's what I'm always talking about, is doing healthy eating rather than talking, dreaming, and hoping about it. You know, I exhibited a number of health fairs and over the years, and there was one where a gentleman came by my table, and he was like a walking encyclopedia of nutrition. He knew everything about every fat and every vitamin, every mineral, and I was so impressed. I said, well, my goodness, what kind of things do you like to eat for dinner? Well, he hemmed and he hawed, and it became obvious that he wasn't really putting all that good nutrition knowledge into practice on his table. And now I understand it can be a little hard and it can seem overwhelming to make healthy meals. But actually, this is where this vital life skill comes in. It makes that translation easier, and that's why I really want to share it with you today. So now let's talk a little bit about why this vital life skill is so important. And that has to do with what I call the surprise phenomenon. So let me ask you this. Think back over to last night, for instance. Did you get hungry sometime around 5 or 6 or 7? How about the night before that? And the night before that? I think you're going to see where I'm going with this. Now, what about breakfast yesterday? Did you get hungry around that time and then maybe around noontime? Well, based on this past evidence, do you think that tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, you're probably going to get hungry a couple of times, probably 3 times a day? I think there's a really good chance of that, right? Despite the inevitable arrival of hunger 2 to 3 times a day, we still get surprised that, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock already? Is it time to eat? How did that happen? Or maybe you're racing out the door and you're hungry, but you're late to work and it's like, oh, I wish I could have time for breakfast. Or, at lunchtime you're working away and all of a sudden it's lunch, but you've got to be to another meeting. This is when we get surprised. An unfortunate thing happens when we get surprised by meal times, and that is when we do what's called default eating. Default eating means that you default and eat whatever you always grab when you're hungry. And the problem is that that's the very same thing that you want to stop eating. But as long as you're surprised, it's really hard to change that pattern. That's the croissant and latte that you grab at Starbucks because you're late for work. Or it's the little cheese and cracker pack that you grab from the vending machine. And I know that one because I used to do that myself. When you were hungry at work and you didn't have time to go get a lunch and you didn't bring anything better. Or maybe you're out shopping and all of a sudden it's lunchtime and you smell the Chinese food at the food court and that's what you go for. Well, this surprise and default eating way of going about food, it's really kind of a curious development. Not only curious, but self-defeating and life-threatening in a way. And I'm going to encourage you to take a longer view for a minute with me. And if we look back over our history as a species, when have we ever been able to just never think about where our next meal is going to come from, wait till the last minute, and then just grab something? I mean, like, for instance, I'm here in Colorado, and we're recording this, it's winter, and I'm looking out the window, and I can see that there's not much growing there. So that wouldn't be a very good time for me to go, gosh, wish I would have planted some wheat back in the spring, or some squash, or some tomatoes that I could have canned to survive through the winter. No, in every other period of history, we've always had to think ahead and plan for where our next meal is going to come from. So what happened between then and now where we don't have to think about what we're eating, we can just depend on food being there? Well, a couple of things. The first is that modern agriculture has brought us an abundance of food. And so nobody's going to starve now. And we've all got grocery stores, within a mile or 2 of every house practically. And so there's lots of foods there. But even that doesn't explain it fully, because if you found wheat or tomatoes or squash at the grocery store, you still have to prepare them, which takes some planning and some thinking ahead. So I'm going to move on to the second thing, and I think this is the real key factor that has changed us from people who think ahead about meals to people who wait until the last minute. And that is the dawn of the convenience food industry. And I feel like this is the big reason why we no longer think about what we're going to be eating. Because physically, we don't have to really prepare anything. This is the first time probably in history where you could just go into a store and be able to come out with something that's fully prepared, maybe a shot in the microwave, and that would be it. As importantly, though, what this convenience food thing has done to us is that it's eliminated the very idea, the skill, and the tradition of thinking ahead about our food. It's kind of like riding a horse or learning to write a letter, for instance. Who does that anymore, right? Or writing a check to pay for your shoes at the store. Those are skills that we're just losing because we no longer use them. And that's the same thing that's happening with our meals. We no longer need to think ahead, and so why would you bother spending time doing this where within a half a mile of wherever you are, you can walk in, get your hunger filled, and be on your way? And it kind of makes some sense. I mean, why bother when all this is around? Well, except for our health. If you look around and look at our health today, you can see quite clearly where this convenience food eating has gotten us. We have surrendered control over our meal times, and this has had disastrous effects on our health. And I would say that by surrendering control of our meals to the convenience food industry, that is the root cause, if not at least one of the main root causes of our health crisis today. So we need to, if we want to enjoy wonderful good health again, we need to retake control of our food. We need to see our healthy dreams, eating dreams, show up. But we can't if we're surprised by meal times and we don't think ahead. And we can't if it seems like this terribly enormous and overwhelming task. And that's probably why our good eating intentions stay up here instead of showing up on the table. We haven't set ourselves up so that our good intentions have even a prayer of showing up. And so that think ahead and plan habit, that's how we get set up. We can get past overwhelm and we can retake control of our meals and make our healthy eating intentions come true. So this is exactly where I found myself when I started my healthy eating journey. I had a lot of good intentions, but I was barely making them happen and kind of losing my mind in the process. That's how, when this Vital LifeSkill came to me, that really saved my sanity. So let's talk a little bit more about this, but first I need to backtrack a little bit and talk about another aspect of healthy eating that's just as important as doing. I've talked about how important it is with healthy eating to be doing it, not just talking and dreaming and hoping about it. But as equally important is to be doing it consistently. That means day in and day out, week after week. And it is possible to do healthy eating but not do it consistently. Like you might be getting vegetables a couple days a week, or maybe you make a couple good meals on the weekends. Maybe you even pack some good lunches for a couple weeks before you're back in the food court ordering pizza. Well, in each one of those little steps that you do, that's all good. But you must know that the true benefits of healthy eating really only come as we turn it into a lifelong lifestyle day after day. And it's kind of hard for us to grasp that sometimes because we've been indoctrinated with the antibiotic type thinking, which is have a problem, take a pill, in 24 hours you're pretty much better. Maybe you finish the course after 7 or 10 days and then life can just go back to normal. And so it's hard for us to think in terms of, oh no, with healthy eating, that's something that needs to be going on, like I say, day after day for life. So this gets us into an issue of sustainability and manageability. And I think the sustainability piece can be why a lot of people fall off the healthy eating wagon, because it's really hard to think about doing this as a lifestyle, lifelong lifestyle. And so this gets into manageability. How can we make this healthy eating manageable enough so that we can do it on a sustainable basis? And this is where I found myself 27 years ago when we were in the middle of our health crisis. What happened for me is that I had 2 young children at the time, a 6-month-old son and a daughter who was like just under 2 years old. And we were just a sick mess. And I was going through virus after virus. My son had one ear infection after another. My daughter had croup so many times they were diagnosing her as an asthmatic. The straw that broke the camel's back, though, was when my son got an ear infection while he was still on a course of antibiotics for the previous ear infection. That's the point at which I said, something's just not right here. And so for some reason, something inside me said to go see a naturopath. Maybe I'd just heard about one or something, because 27 years ago, that was not a very common thing to do. But I did go see a naturopath, and he prescribed for us a wheat and dairy-free diet, which was also not at all common at that time. And so, but I was willing to give it a try, but the only problem is that once I got home and tried to start making meals for my family, I realized that, oh my gosh, 75% of our diet is either wheat or dairy. How am I going to feed my kids when 75% of our diet is off limits now? But somehow, I think my mother bear instincts kicked in and I was able to make it happen. And by golly, we got healthy and happy again. It was wonderful to see my kids smiling again. But at this 2-month mark, when we were kind of over the worst, I had to stop and take stock of things and go, well, where are we going to go now? Am I going to just say, okay, we're all better, let's just go back to the way things were? Or are we going to keep going on for life? And I have to admit, it was tempting to think about going back because it was so hard to make these healthy meals every day. It was so easy to slap together a peanut butter and jelly, but no, I had to make something with a whole grain, vegetables, and a protein every day, every meal. So that's why I kind of got to this point of 2 months and said, forward or back. And really, I really didn't have an option, because did I really want to go back to sick kids and sick me? Not at all. But I did promise myself one thing. I said, I'm going to go forward, but I need to make this manageable for me. So then I had to start pondering, well, how can I make this process of healthy meal making manageable? And from deep within the recesses of my mind, something came up, and that was meal planning. And why did that come up? It was actually something I had hoped to forget about, because it was something that my mother did. My mother had to feed 7 people on a limited food budget. You can bet that she didn't run to the store every day, and she certainly didn't buy a bunch of convenience foods. I don't think they even existed then. No, once a week she stopped, got out the grocery ads, figured out based on what's on sale what she was going to make for her family. Then it was just a quick hop and a skip to a shopping list. She would go to the store and get exactly what she needed to feed all 7 of us without busting her budget and in a nutritious way. Now, why do I say that I had thought and hoped that I had forgotten about this? Because meal planning was something my mother did. And I was darn certain that I didn't want to be stuck in the kitchen doing meal planning like my mother. I had been a liberated female. I'd gone to law school. I practiced law in a big fancy law firm. I tried to avoid homemaking things as much as I could. But it was clear that planning ahead for my meals was going to be the key that would make healthy meal making manageable for me. So of course I swallowed my pride and said, I'm going to start trying this skill out. And it's amazing what it did to get my meal times under control. So I have 2 questions for you at this point. If you're someone who is concerned about and would like to prevent those big scary diseases like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, or maybe you just want to prevent those annoying colds and flus that you get all winter, or just have better sleep or better energy, if any of those apply to you, here's a couple tough questions to ask yourself. Number 1, are you doing the good eating knowledge that's in your head? And number 2, are you doing it consistently? Are you able to make your healthy eating intentions show up on the table? And can you do it in a way that's fun and flavorful and not the same old boring things? Or are you disappointed that, once again, it didn't show up? So if you've answered no to either of those 2 tough questions, can we talk some more? I'd love you to join me for my next webinar. It's a free webinar where we're going to go more fully into this think ahead and plan habit so that you can answer yes to those 2 questions. And it's kind of interesting to me that few people think about the think ahead and plan habit as a solution to their healthy eating struggles. I mean, maybe it's because we've never heard of it or don't think about it. Maybe we don't understand the connection between thinking ahead and making our healthy eating dreams come true. Maybe we don't know about this thing called inevitability planning. That's something that they talk about in the business world, where you plan for things and your success is inevitable. Same thing works with food. If you plan healthy meals, they're practically guaranteed. And you know, it's always sad to me that people can seem dispirited and discouraged about healthy eating, like it's such a struggle. And I often wonder whether they feel like there's no other solutions, there's no hope, like I've done everything, I can't think of anything else I can do. What I want to do is hold out the hope that there is something else. There's a solution here, and it's this simple thing called thinking ahead and planning, and you might be just amazed at how it can take the struggle out of healthy eating for you. So if you're ready to learn more about this, please do click on the link below and join me in my next webinar where we'll introduce more fully the think ahead and plan habit. But now I want to wrap up this video by talking about how the think ahead and plan habit saved my life. We've talked about how it saved my health and my sanity. Let's talk a little bit about how it saved my life. Now, that may sound a little dramatic, right? Like really, like this little simple thing called think ahead and plan helped save your life. But let me tell you why I really think that's the truth. And to know that, you have to know the prequel to my story that I already shared with you about our health crisis. What happened before that is that my eating was gradually going down, down, and down. Now, I had been raised on a farm, and so we raised our own vegetables and fruits and our own animals and so forth, so I knew what a healthy diet looked like. But, about in the 80s or 90s, I got caught up in the convenience food trap just like everybody else did. I was at that point a practicing attorney, and you might know that attorneys live and die by their billable hours. So every minute of every day you're seeing, is that a billable hour that I can charge to a client? It's craziness. But I soon figured out that, well, why should I spend my time cooking if instead I could put that time into billable hours? So that's how I easily got trapped into convenience food. Instead of making my meals, when I got hungry at the office, I'd sneak across the street and get a McDonald's. This is embarrassing, but we have to be honest about ourselves, right? Or I'd go down to the Walgreens when I had to work late, get a frozen meal, and just heat it up. And maybe on nights when I got to go home, I'd have a bowl of Raisin Bran or just heat up a can of soup. And then when my kids came along, I did the same thing. I'd ordered a big pizza and we could get 2 meals out of it. And I thought, oh, how great. It's cheap, it's convenient, it's really yummy. Why not jump on this bandwagon? Well, it's really obvious, isn't it? Because that kind of food did not sustain our health either for me or my children. And the fact is, I'm kind of grateful that we had our health wake-up call a long time ago before it got any worse. Because now I realize, I can look back now and I can put all the pieces together, and I realize that I was headed for diabetes. I feel pretty certain about that. And had I not had our health crisis, I could have been a person with diabetes right now, which would have very easily taken my life, or taken parts of my limbs, or taken all the fun out of my life. So why, though, I didn't go that route is the think ahead and plan habit. Because that was the first step that made my healthy eating journey manageable enough so that I could do it day in, day out, and get both my kids and me to a wonderful state of health that I hope you can all get to as well. And that is why I am so excited to share this vital life skill with you as well. So that, one, you can do healthy eating, not just dream and talk about it. So that you can do it consistently, not just on occasion. And then save your health, your sanity, and your life like I was able to do with mine. And now, to bring this full circle, though, I want to encourage you, please stop arguing for your own limitations. Can you instead argue for your possibilities? Because if we can open our minds to this think ahead and plan habit, it opens so many possibilities for us to make our healthy eating dreams come true. So please click on the link below, Join my free webinar and learn about the #1 best and most brilliant way to make your healthy eating dreams come true. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.